6th of May, 2020. And I'm Wes Hagen. I am your gracious host for Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. Welcome to the Miller Family Wine School. Welcome to Day Drinking. We're going to have a good time tonight. So it is still the day. It's not exactly tonight, but I know some of you watch from the East Coast, and 8 o'clock probably doesn't exactly feel like day drinking, but here we are. We're going to have a good time. If you haven't been here before, here's the deal. Mondays, we talk about general wine stuff. Tuesdays, we taste a wine or two. Wednesdays, we talk about advanced wine and travel. Thursdays, we drink a wine or two and talk about it. And then on Friday, we have a Zoom tasting with guests. We've got, and it looks like Mark Ashamala. Very nice to see you again, my friend. And John Brooks is in the house. So this Friday, we're having a very special event. We're going to have Jason Osborne, consulting brewer from Captain Fatty's in Goleta, California, come in. He basically has a Master Cicerone level of knowledge about beer history, and we are going to be talking all about beer. So Friday, get your beer on, get a couple beers in front of you. We're going to talk about everything from ale to can't think of a beer that starts with Z, but yeah, from A to Z, we're going to be talking about every style of beer, the history of those beers, and all those wonderful stuff. Cool. And Phil just came in, and Phil is noticing from beautiful Maryland on the eastern seaboard that the barrel burner cab is actually quite amazingly delicious, probably because Clay Brock made it, and he was the winemaker of the year in Paso Robles in 2010, an amazingly able winemaker. Clay Brock is no longer. He left us just a couple months ago. And he is no longer the director of winemaking at the Miller Family Wine Company. We now have an amazing new director of winemaking, which is Jonathan Nagy, who was with the Jackson Family Winery, as well as Byron Winery for 20 years, including a number of years with Ken Brown, who I would say is probably one of the most talented and crafty winemakers in not only in the Central Coast, not only in Santa Barbara, but obviously in California. So really, really stoked to have Jonathan on board. Just had a lovely conversation with him today via email, and we're going to get together and talk all about where we want to take Jay Wilkes, which brings up the point that love your input. Obviously, we love to be as connected as possible with our customers, and that's all well and good. So Michelle Shin, welcome. So good to have you. Can always tell that Phil and Michelle know where to come for the best picture quality, which is over at J. Wilkes Wines, Santa Barbara. The Wes Hagen Facebook page is up and running with Bob and Johnny O'Donnell. Oh, well, Johnny, we'll be back in the West Side selling wine, taking, basically kissing babies, dropping boxes, cashing checks and breaking necks before you know it, baby. So I hope everything is well with you out in Marina Del Rey area, the Playa del Rey. What's up with the jungle? I hope the jungle is treating you well. How in the hell do all of you young, beautiful people down in Marina Del Rey stay 10 feet apart from each other? Because if I was in my 20s and I lived down at the beach on the West Side, that would be a hell of a challenge. So keep on keeping on, Johnny. We want to see you on the other end of this thing. So good job, everybody. Let's see. We got the barrel burning cab with some homemade chili. I've just been kind of getting back into making chili too. So I make a white chicken chili that has no chili powder, but has a lot of other spices. I basically take a bunch of bone-in chicken, basically like a whole chicken, throw it in my Instapot, cook the hell out of it, and then just pull bones out of it for about 30 minutes. And then a couple of cans of northern white beans, some spices, some garlic, some cumin, so it does taste like chili. It makes a fantastic chili. I've also been experimenting with my turkey chili, and the turkey chili has been going on really, really well. And Annie's here. How lovely is that? And Martin is having some Hennessy XO. It was a day. Yes, it was. And if you're in spirits right now, you're probably a lot like me. Hey, one really, really cool thing that happened today. In about 10 minutes, we're going to be launching our show tonight officially, which will also start on Instagram at exactly 5 o'clock because Facebook was here first and you guys get me for an extra 15 minutes. Plus, if I go over an hour, Instagram cuts me off, which they should. I should be able to get this through in an hour. Today, we're doing Cabernet 3 ways. We're going to do Ballard Lane Cabernet, Barrel Burner Cabernet, and J. Wilkes Cabernet, but I think I'm going to put them in a different order. I think we're going to go Ballard Lane, then the J. Wilkes, and then the Barrel Burner, because I honestly, after I tasted them today to decide how in what order we would put these, I decided that would be the order in which to put them, from sort of probably from most elegant all the way to the biggest, ripest wine that we produce. The biggest cab we probably make in this company is actually the Bourbon Barrel Cabernet from J. Wilkes, which is a special sort of wine club tasting room special only. But that's a hell of a big Paso cab. But that Barrel Burner for $15 cab on sale right now for $7.50. Remember the 50% sale for Miller Family Wines, the 3 wines that we're selling for 50% off right now, which is the Ballard Lane, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Cabernet, Barrel Burner, Chardonnay, and Cab, both 92 points in the Tasting Panel Somm Journal. And then that beautiful 2017 J. Wilkes Cabernet Sauvignon. Oh, excuse me. The J. Wilkes it's on 25% sale, but it's not, if you buy a case, 20% over 6 bottles. But you will end up spending $7.50 for the 2 of the 3 wines that we're pouring tonight. So if you're looking for some everyday drinking wine, some stuff to keep you company during sparkling isolation, I definitely recommend getting some of that Cab, getting some of that Ballard Lane Pinot Noir, that Smashberry Rosé, the Ballard Lane Sauvignon Blanc, and the Zinfandel are some of my favorites. And for a sub $10 SKU, it's a hell of a good deal. So I will warn you a number of times. But remember, DD50 tells my boss that you bought that wine as a promo code because you were watching me talk about wine. So Stan, so stoked that you are here. Awesome. Love having you here. And we want to make sure, and then after we talk a little bit about these cabs, we're going to back up a little bit and talk about how to reintegrate into tasting rooms and into wine country. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about visiting wine country and my recommendations on the best way to do so once we have the opportunity to sort of end social distancing or come back together in special ways in wine tasting rooms and in wine country. I want to let you guys know everything I know about wine country and everything I know about tasting rooms as a winemaker, from a winemaker's perspective, to give you guys the bonuses and some of the things you can say when you go to make appointments and go to a tasting room to get the best service, the best experience, and the best value. So I will be telling you all about that. And I just actually remembered about some stuff about discounts, because I want you guys to get the best wine, hanging out with me, having a little bit of sequestering with Wes. We're going to talk, we're going to drink, but in the end, I want to give you guys tools to say, hey, I've been a production winemaker now for 20 years. And I got some really, really good ideas on how you guys can do even a better job of using some suggestions and some ideas about how to get the best value out of wine country and tasting rooms. So 3 Cabernets and tasting rooms. I like to call it sort of wishful thinking. What we're going to do when we get to go back out to our favorite places, whether that be Napa, Sonoma, the Willamette Valley, and name a Willamette winemaker who's talking about people from Willamette coming down and visiting California. Love you, Oregon, but you need to get over the fact that most of you are self-loathing ex-Californians. Come out of the closet, Oregon. You know you love California. We know you love California. We love Oregon. We're willing to say it. We'd love it if you would give us a little bit of love, and if your logging trucks would stop trying to run people with California license plates off the road and kill us, because that actually happened to me. Driving to a Grateful Dead show in the late 80s, where someone actually, a logging truck, rolled down their windows, yelled some explicatives at me, something and something Californian, get off our roads, and then managed to drive me off the road. And if it would have been a different part of the road, I would have died that day. So Oregon, with all that you've tried to kill me, and I still love you. None of you folks can say, you can say that our taxes are too high. You can say that our rent is too high. You can say that our real estate is too high, but you can't say that this isn't a beautiful state with beautiful people that represents, to me, what California represents is the idea that there is someplace better. There is always someplace better, that you can come, that you can try to get to the promised land. That's what California means to American history. It is the sort of release valve of all the stuff that was happening everywhere else. You could keep going west. If you didn't like Colorado, you're going to have to cross the mountains and keep going west. If you got to the West Coast and you were a little too high, maybe you could come down south. You can't argue that. Good luck. If you don't like California, I've got a good idea for you. Try to go one day. Try to go 1 hour in our current situation without using a technology that was made or developed in California. So no internet. You don't like California? Okay, don't use our internet. You don't like California? Don't eat a banana split. Don't watch hockey because the Zamboni was invented in Los Angeles. Double-decker hamburger, Bob's Big Boy back in the 50s. Computer chips, iPhone, smartphone. You can't use your iPhone. You can't use the internet. California is such an integral part of the culture that we have here. And I just decided to sort of just go off on my home state. Not only was I born here in California, not only were my parents born here in California, not only 3 of my 4 grandparents were born here in California, but 2 of however many great-grandparents I've had, I think 8, right? If this works sequentially, were also born in California in Long Beach. So my family goes back almost 4 generations in Long Beach, 3 generations in Glendale, which makes me about a 3.5 generation Californian, which I love to talk about because to me, California, it's always a place I'm so proud and wonderfully happy to come back to when I travel for wine. No matter where I am in the world, when I look at coming back to Santa Maria, California, I look at the weather. I look at what to expect. I know that my wife and my dogs are here. My house is here. My liquor cabinet's here. My wine cellar's here. Some of the great disc golf courses that I play on a regular basis are here. My baskets are in the backyard with all my frisbees so I can practice putting. It's very, very important. One thing I would love to know about what's going on with you guys is not only where you are and what you're drinking, because I always love to hear what you're drinking, and I already got some good information from Michelle and Phil, but also the question for today is, what are you doing during sequestration that you might not have imagined that you would have been doing otherwise? What craft, what cooking? Have you got into bread? I've been seeing these loaves of bread showing up, and as a guy who can't really eat carbohydrates, it's killing me because I would say that probably sourdough bread is one of my favorite 3 things in the world. And Cody, so glad you came on. Welcome, welcome. So that's sort of one thing that I'm thinking about. And we've got Tommy Schmitz, who works in our tasting room down in Santa Barbara. Thank you for being here again, Tommy. I hope you're on the clock because you deserve to be. And we are bringing in bubbles. Did I mention this? That Jay Wilkes is doing bubbles now? 25 cases of sparkling wine. And if you know me from my Clopepi days, there's only one other person that I would trust making bubbles for my brand, and that's Norm Yost at Flying Goat. So Norm and his crew over at Flying Goat are making a 100% hand-bottled, hand-disgorged. If you want to say that like sparkling wine is a craft, most champagne producers, most sparkling wine producers, when they say it's handmade sparkling wine, they are not telling you the truth. If you go into Norm's on any given day, you're going to see some crazy stuff. Up until last year, they were even doing hand disgorging without actually freezing the neck of the bottle, which has been a way that sparkling wine's been made for probably about 100 years, using basically liquid nitrogen to freeze the sediment in the bottle, flipping it up and then popping it out like a bullet to the sky. They just got basically a liquid nitrogen freezing vat. But since then, it is hand bottled. Everything is done by hand down at Flying Goat, and Norm Yost is going to be just sold us 25 cases of a Santa Maria Valley Blanc de Noir, which we will be labeling under the J. Wilkes label and selling at our tasting room when it's open. Actually, our tasting room is open, believe it or not, right now for pickup and for to-go food. So we're putting together cheese and charcuterie trays and all the wine that you need from all the brands that we can sell you out of downtown Santa Barbara, and boom. Love to see Peter Rogers in the house. Thank you for showing up again. I hope everything is well in the Rogers household. I hope Mary is well as well. And it looks like Brad came in. And we've got Martin Blind, pizza. You got a pizza oven. Yes. Making pizza from scratch is a hell of a thing. I never knew that pizza ovens were so hot, and a properly seasoned pizza oven at about 700 to 800 degrees. The rule is if you can walk away from a pizza oven, it's not hot enough. But literally, you have to put those pizzas in and start turning them with the peel and pulling them out without ever losing eye contact. Because what I've found from a pizza perspective is that you really have to pay attention. It's 5 o'clock, which means I am live on Instagram, and we are day drinking with Wes Hagen. So the Miller Family Wine School, as well as J. Wilkes Wines, welcomes you all to day drinking with Wes Hagen. This is the fifth week that I've been doing this. About an hour, 5. It used to be 6. Actually, it started 7 nights a week. The first 2 weeks I did this Saturday and Sunday too. I love the structure that the show gives my life right now, and I have to give the Miller Family Wine School some huge props. To say that we did something we've never done today. We had a happy hour with our sales force. So after our sales force at 2:30 this afternoon, our entire 6-7 person sales force all got together through Teams, Zoom, whatever, and looked at each other, turned our cameras on, and had a drink and just chilled. And how awesome was that? And I know that spring and early summer is springing in a lot of places. Michigan, I guess, is in the high 50s, and it's going to go down to the 40s. So there are places in the upper tier right now that are still cold. But if you're in California on the West Coast, you're recognizing we are seeing not record heat, but we are seeing 80 degrees, which is warmer today than it was in all of July and August last year, which seems a little odd. Talking to Nick DeLuca, who sells a lot of our fruit out of Biendecito in Solomon Hills, he said it was warm enough at Biendecito when he was out there. He said he could hear the vines growing, and I just love that. And tomorrow we're supposed to get into the mid to high 80s, which is quite unseasonably warm for us. If you didn't know, taking it back to grapes, and we've gotten some lovely folks coming on over Instagram. Welcome, everybody. If you didn't know, 87 degrees is a magic number in viticulture, and so is 102. At 87 degrees, Vitis vinifera, the grape that gives us wine, and thank goodness for that. And by the way, welcome to Day Drinking. This is a gin and gin. Turns out tonic has 36 grams of carbs per serving. As I mentioned yesterday, I was drinking gin and tonics as a lovely sort of intro and just something to have in my glass while I was talking to you guys before I opened our first wines. And by the end of these shows, I was starting, as you could hear at the end of these shows, I'd started getting high glucose warnings from my constant glucose monitor. And I kept thinking, oh, I must be stressed from doing the show. Do I feel stressed? I don't look stressed. I love talking to you guys. Hanging out with you guys is the easiest thing in the world. So why is my blood or my glucose levels going up through the roof? Turns out that the bitterness in quinine requires them to add so much high fructose corn syrup to Schweppes tonic that it has almost as much sugar per serving as Coca-Cola, which makes you think, what the hell? How in the world does a gin and tonic drink like a Coke and a rum and Coke? But it actually does. And it was maybe 4 or 5 ounces of tonic was spiking my my glucose level almost 100 points. So bummer. Now I'm drinking gin and gin. So it's got the tiniest splash. It's 4 parts gin, 1 part tonic, some ice, some lemons from my lemon tree outside. And by the way, having a lemon tree during this whole thing and 2 lime trees, I could not be happier that it is here. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about wine, though. I know that we've tasted the Ballard Lane 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon. So this wine got 90 points from the Somm Journal as well as Tasting Panel. It also got a gold medal from Orange County Fair. And 89 points and a editor's choice from the Wine Enthusiast. So for it's normally about $12.99 on the shelf. You can get it with the DD50 coupon code at millerfamilywines.com for $7.50 a bottle. If you need some everyday drinking cab, I think this wine is drinking great. One thing that I did not mention to you guys, and I apologize, the editor's choice was actually the barrel burner. This got the gold medal at the Orange County Fair and the 91 point score from the Somm Journal. Also, I did a little experiment, little checking, 77% Cabernet Sauvignon, as well as 20% Merlot and 3% Cabernet Franc. So this is actually a Bordeaux blend, very, very heavy on the cab. What does cab add to a Bordeaux blend? Muscularity, richness, tannin, grip. Like I said, basically Cabernet Sauvignon is the musculature of Bordeaux. So let's see how this bad boy is drinking. 2017 Central Coast appellated, beautiful Ballard Lane. Winemaker here was Richard Shelton. He's also moved on. The new winemaker for Ballard Lane. Let's see, I believe will be John. Yeah, I think it'll be one of our new winemakers that I'm going to be bringing on. By the way, on Friday guests, I'm going to be bringing in, after we get through our next amount of guests. By the way, on Friday, I'll be bringing in Jason Osborne, who's one of the most interesting guys. If you like how I talk about wine, you are going to love how Jason talks about beer. He is one of the most cerebral beer geeks I've ever met. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of beer in the United States, history of craft beer. And a little bit about the future of craft beer, where we can expect craft beer to be in the next year, 5 years, and 10 years are the questions that I'm going to be asking Jason. And Jason's going to give us a lot of really, really crazy and beautiful information about beer this Friday. And then we're bringing in Matt Kettman from The Wine Enthusiast. We're bringing in all of the winemakers from the Miller Family Wine School. So you'll be able to listen and talk and ask questions to the winemaker for Smashberry, the winemaker for Ballard Lane, as well as the winemaker for Barrel Burner. So all of those folks are coming up every Friday at 5 o'clock. We will have a Zoom tasting with anyone who wants to show up and ask some questions of all these wonderful winemakers. And then after the winemakers, I'm bringing in Master Sommelier, Will Costello, and we'll be talking a little bit about taking tasting notes and how to taste blind and whether it really matters. So we're going to really talk to a Master Sommelier about the things that he knows better than just about anybody. Awesome. So I'm going to be tasting a couple wines as soon as I'm done talking a little bit about these three wines. We'll take a little break, answer some questions, welcome you all in. So welcome everybody on Instagram, welcome everybody on Facebook. Let's get down to it. So in my glass, 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon with 20% Merlot and 7%? 3% Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc's going to give some spice. The Merlot's going to give some plush, sort of plummy character, and I expect some cassis and some, bright fruit and some good tannin coming out of the Cabernet Sauvignon. It's not a fruit bomb, but it definitely has quite a bit of fruit. I'm smelling a lot of cherry, a decent amount of that toasty oak character from the oak that was used in the production of this wine. So it's definitely coming across clearly as Cabernet Sauvignon in the nose. If I guessed it, I would have to guess it was probably close to 100% Cabernet. I'm not getting a lot of plumminess and a little bit of the spice from the Cabernet Franc, but the wine smells balanced. I don't smell a lot of heat in the nose, so I know that the alcohol is probably pretty moderate. A lot of cassis, not a lot of like minty eucalyptus stuff. I don't get any of that. None of the green bell pepper or green bean pyrazine. Not smelling much pyrazine. Clearly, this wine was grown with proper canopy management. If you smell green beans or green bell pepper in a Cabernet Sauvignon, you can make the statement that clearly that wine was grown in a shaded canopy. As the grapes were grown, if they're grown in shade, they retain these pyrazine characters and these pyrazine compounds that generally smell and taste like green bell pepper and canned green beans. So there's something we want to avoid and something that's easily fixable in the viticultural practices that are accomplished at a vineyard. So if the wine smells like green bell pepper or green beans or something, that is not a winemaking fault. That is a viticultural fault. So we really want to make sure that we open up the canopy to sunlight and wind so the sunlight can hit the fruit. And when sunlight hits Cabernet Sauvignon, when sunlight hits Sauvignon Blanc, when sunlight hits any grape in the world, it begins to degrade the pyrazine character and basically change those pyrazines into terpenes. And the terpenes are going to give the high-toned red and black berry fruit character in red wine and a lot of those white floral and white blossom characters in white. So if you smell orange blossom or star jasmine, Viognier has one of the highest terpene contents of any white wine. Moscato or Muscat of Alexandria all have very high terpene character as well. So aromatic white wines, a lot of terpenes. So that's what terpenes smell like in white. And then in a red wine, you would expect something that is jammy and highly fruity in the nose. Those are the terpenes that you get from proper canopy management. And that's so important in Cabernet Sauvignon because the Sauvignon in Cabernet means savage, sauvage. Sauvignon means it's the savage Cabernet. It's the wine that has thick skins. It's strong. It's brutal, but it also has all those aromas too. So the Sauvignon, just like Sauvignon Blanc, which is 50% of Cabernet Sauvignon, because Cabernet Sauvignon was created when there was a cross made between Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. Yes, the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon are Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. Weird enough, but that's how it rolls. First sip of wine in the day, just always tastes so nice. It's a warm day here in Santa Maria. It's about 82 degrees and it's about 74 degrees in my house. Of course, we don't have air conditioning because we live in Santa Maria, California. So it does get a little warmer here in the afternoon on these warm days. So the wine, I mean, given my druthers, I'd probably be drinking something crisp, bright, and cold. But I'll tell you what, as a wine that I'm drinking at about 68, 69 degrees, it shows some elegance. It shows some restraint. So as a result, I'm drinking a Cabernet that gives me good grip, good attack. I love the word attack. So how does the wine hit you when you first put it in your palate? That's the attack. You want the wine to have a presence in your palate. You want to taste the flavor. I get a lot of rich red and black berry fruit on the attack, a little bit of sort of cedar and cigar box, and then some good density in the back of the palate. It's really a lovely wine. And for $12.99 and $7.50 until next week, it's a hell of a thing. So if you need some really good Cabernet just to take out and have fun with, I definitely recommend this wine. It's absolutely delectable. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, so we've done the Ballard Lane. We did the one with the screw cap, the easy one, right? So now we're going to open up a bottle. Actually, no, I'm going to open up the, I don't even have to because I've had this bottle open for a few days under the repour. I'd have to look at what day we did 17 Cab. My guess is this has been open between 8 and 9 days. So how does a wine that's been 8 or 9 days under the repour do? This is a cool little device, works a little like a Coravin, but you just use it as a stopper in your wine. It has a proprietary material on the inside that basically absorbs oxygen. So as soon as you put this in a bottle, all the oxygen that's basically gone into this bottle by virtue of pouring it is basically going to be, sorry, I'm doing a show. Shows pretty beautifully in the nose. A lot of that same sort of black and red berry fruit, a little bit of spice, a little bit of earth. Definitely got a nice dense nose to it. Smells like Cabernet Sauvignon. This actually is 95% Cabernet Sauvignon, 5% Legrine. You know, can you smell the Legrine? You know, now that I know that there's Legrine in there, I find a little sort of a dense, brambly, tannic character to the nose. The wine has a lot more glycerin. The wine has a lot more grip. The wine has a bit more presence than the Ballard Lane. Ballard Lane is sort of like a session Cabernet. Delicious to drink, very affordable, and you can drink the heck out of it. It's a beautiful fruit wine, a beautiful sort of pasta wine, be great with like a flank steak. But if I'm going up to a choice or a prime steak, I would probably move into the realm of the J. Wilkes, something that is a little more dense, a little more oak, a little more richness, a little more depth. The Ballard Lane is a perfect wine for what it is. The J. Wilkes wine, though, I think takes it up a notch with character and flavor, and it should, because it's right now you'd pay between 2 and 3x for the J. Wilkes what you would for the Ballard Lane. Obviously, I think the J. Wilkes under cork, screw cap, I mean, you could certainly lay the Ballard Lane down for 4 or 5 years, get a little secondary, tertiary, earthy character to the wine. But to me, the J. Wilkes wine can lay down 5, 7, even 10 years and just keep developing flavor and character. So I definitely recommend, if you have the space for it in the room, for a $20, $22 bottle of Cabernet with your discount, I definitely recommend jumping in on the Ballard or on the J. Wilkes and laying it down for a little bit. Although it's drinking beautifully right now. Did something I'd never done for lunch today. I took Japanese eggplant, I chopped it up, and I panko encrusted it and deep fried it, and then basically covered it with some fresh San Maranello tomatoes that I had made with garlic and a little bit of the Greek oregano I have in my backyard. So we made a really, really nice ragu, kind of like just a tomato sauce, and then basically on top in the tomato sauce, added tons and tons of goat cheese on the top, and then kind of crisped it. And then we just like dip these little sort of like deep fried circles of eggplant into the Parmesan. So it was eggplant Parmesan, but it was sort of like we got to kind of like eat it like French fries. So it was really delicious. And if you have the opportunity, panko crusting some Japanese eggplant and just deep frying it is very satisfying. And even though the meal was vegan, well, I guess it wasn't vegan because there was cheese in it, but it was vegetarian and it was delicious and it had quite a few calories, which is good for me because I'm trying to gain weight. So it was absolutely wonderful. And it was a moderate to low carb meal that I thoroughly and readily enjoyed. We don't eat enough eggplant. I always say I don't eat enough eggplant. When I eat it, I like it. I think the most important thing is for all of us to eat more gravy, to be perfectly frank. I think none of us eat enough gravy. And every time I eat gravy, it reminds me that I should be eating more gravy. And Cabernet goes so well with gravy. If it doesn't go with Cab, add some gravy. Like I said, if it doesn't go with Pinot Noir, add some truffles and butter. If it doesn't go with Cab, add some gravy or a little bit of reduction sauce. Boom, it's going to happen. Showing really nicely. I really am very happy with that 2017. 17, remember, was a slightly warmer vintage, which I think is just perfectly fine for Paso because Paso, it's going to be hot anyways. It's much more important how the vintage rolls in a cool climate area like Santa Maria Valley, because in Santa Maria Valley, we get this type of heat in September and October. Even in the 80s, we're going to see an accumulation of sugar that's going to run faster than the accumulation of flavor development. So what we want to do is have hang time, right? We want hang time. Hang time is so important to the production of a wine because hang time allows the flavor to develop. My favorite way of describing how hang time influences wine is a strawberry. And if you've ever eaten a strawberry that looks ripe, you put a strawberry in your mouth, you bite it, and then you look at what you just bit and you see the entire center of that strawberry is all white and crystally. Man, it's gonna have some flavor, some sweetness. You just ate a strawberry; it's probably good for you, but you're not as stoked as you are when you get that one perfect strawberry. And the most perfect strawberry I ever had, I ate on the campus of Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, in the end of May, a couple years ago. I was lecturing at Cornell, and I was taking a walk in between. And as I walked, I found strawberries. I found basically wild strawberries. And as a Californian, I'd never seen wild strawberries before. So I had seen a strawberry that for some reason no deer or no bird had found, but it was a strawberry that was so bright and dense and dark red. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was like a sugar bomb in my mouth. It was blood red from the skin all the way to the pith. And it let me know just what a strawberry is meant to taste like. That is phenolic ripeness. A strawberry that's picked when it's red, put in your box so it can ship, and then you taste it and it is disappointingly unripe, would be like grapes that were picked because here comes a rainstorm, here comes some frost, here comes whatever's happening during harvest. The decision is made to pull that fruit a little bit early. It's not allowed to develop that flavor and that color that really is important. So that really is the most important thing to me, is that on the Central Coast, we generally don't have rain until November. So we can let September and October just flow through, and we never really have to worry about anything except heat spikes. And the heat spikes just basically get us riper. We just have to be careful because we could lose acidity and we could make a wine that loses balance. If the big heat spike is coming, we have to ask ourselves the fundamental question: what are we going to lose by picking before the heat spike? And what are we going to gain by picking before the heat spike? And then asking ourselves, generally, winemakers with more experience let the grapes go through the heat spike because they know that they can bring the grapes in, that they have the opportunity to perhaps acidulate the juice a little bit to make sure that if they lose a little bit of acid as a result, that you're not hamstringing the wine by picking it too early, but you're also not you have to be very careful because if you let the grapes go through in a very long and extended heat spike, you may end up making a substandard wine because the heat and the sun has damaged the fruit and is going to make the wine taste porty. It's going to make the wine taste raisiny. And the last thing we want to do is to make a wine that tastes like port that's not port. I don't mind drinking port. I mean, port's delicious. Amarone is delicious, but at the same time, we got to be careful there. All right, third cab, and then Then we'll talk a little bit about all the secrets I have for you guys for visiting wine country once we get out of sparkling isolation and we go back out into the wine world and support all of our local wineries and all the California wineries that we love so much. And you can even go up and support Oregon, even though those Oregonians tried to kill me. I still love Oregon, and it's still a very important and special place for me. So onward. Now we're drinking the third Cabernet. We've got Barrel Burner, a wine that was originally made by Clay Brock that will now be made by Jonathan Nagy. So how is Jonathan Nagy going to take a full ripeness oaked Cabernet and Chardonnay and use his 20 years of skills of making Byron and Santa Maria Valley wines? How is he going to bring that forward to make these wines in the future? That's a great question that I have to ask Jonathan in about a month when I bring him onto a Friday to have the discussion on our Zoom Fridays where we have guests. And if you hadn't listened, we have a great show this Friday that we're going to be basing on beer. And I'm bringing in a guy, Jason Osborne, that will blow your mind. If you love beer and you want to learn about beer, I really, really hope you guys will come in on Friday between 5 and 6 to learn a little bit more about beer and how important it is in the development of human civilization. That beer gave us civilization, wine took us to finishing school, and how lucky we are to live in the Western culture where beer and wine history is so integral into who we are. You know, without beer, we may be living in caves, and we'll talk about that. Without beer really drove the first human civilizations to be permanently placed someplace so they could grow enough grain to continue to make beer. The agricultural revolution, Mesopotamia, can arguably be really focused on beer. Beer gave us permanent civilization. We were hunter-gatherers until beer was made. And when we started making beer, we're like, screw this, why wander? Let's just grow a bunch of grain and make enough beer that we can be drinking beer every night instead of chasing these damn, herds of antelope. So I'm not saying antelope's not delicious. It is, but it tastes much better with a nice glass of frothy beer. So we'll be talking all about beer and beer history. Barrel burner. So the whole idea of barrel burner is to make sort of a Napa-styled oaky Cabernet and price it at more of a Paso Robles price point. So this wine is a $14.99 shelf price point. That's its recommended sort of price. But actually, we are selling this wine, 92 point wine, in the Somm Journal and as well as the tasting panel right now for $7.50 using the promo code DD50 at millerfamilywines.com. So there's a little plug. If you need some wine, we're shipping. And if you use DD50, we'll give you a $10 flat rate shipping on per case. So 0 to 12 bottles, $10. 13 to 24 bottles, $20, which is about half of what we pay. So we're actually losing money on the shipping. So take advantage of us and get some more wine in your house before it gets too hot. Very important. And California is cooling down later this week, which I'm kind of looking forward to. Should be loads of fun. Definitely a lot more richness in the nose. I'm smelling a lot more complexity in the J. Wilkes, and I'm smelling a lot more richness and ripeness in the barrel burner, which is exactly kind of what we would expect. This wine went into basically was in contact with about the equivalent of 50% new French oak for quite about 6 months, and picked up a lot of the toasty, roasty oak to give the wine a little bit more character, a little more flavor, a little more depth. Certainly, we've ramped up the Ballard Lane, elegant, delicious, everyday drinking Cabernet with a lot of flavor and character. J. Wilkes, quite complex, better for the cellar. And then I would say that the Barrel Burner is a perfect wine to be drinking tonight to get almost all of the character and flavor that you would expect out of the wine. It's not really meant to age. I think it could go a couple years, but what it's showing right now is a lot of really, really ripe Cabernet fruit, some nice oaky toastiness. Definitely ripeness, even though, and there's a little more vanillin character in the wine as well, and the persistence of flavor because the fruit was harvested a little riper than the Ballard Lane, and probably even a little bit riper probably than the J. Wilkes. The wine definitely has a persistence of flavor on the palate which kind of, I think, will appeal to more of a Napa and Sonoma cab drinker. So if you're a Napa Sonoma cab drinker and you're looking for an everyday drinking wine, I think the Ballard Lane for, even $15 is a great deal. For $7.50, it's ridiculous, and you should stock up. Delicious stuff. Super yum. I love some Cabernet. And I'll take a little break right now in just the sense that I want to welcome everyone who's coming in. We got lots of folks coming in on Instagram. I appreciate Joe Estrada, and Dusty's in the house, and my Dead Lioness friend is here again. Thank you so much. I haven't scared you away. Boots and Whiskey's in the house, and Oshua Rock. Sal, welcome. Jay Flash. I know, dude. Tonic raises glucose. What the heck? I just found out I'm actually at about 73 about 10 minutes ago. So I'm actually going into a slight hypo right now. So as we have a lovely opportunity to welcome Patrick and McWine and Intravino and our Pedvin Van, and see who's coming in. I'm eating granola bars. I'll try to do so with my mouth closed, so I don't pass out on you. That would suck. Eddie Gray's in the house. John Hires is enjoying a Babcock 2015 Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir. It'd be interesting for you to know I worked with Brian Babcock in 1996. And around September 15th, probably, 1996, Brian Babcock and I had a very long day of crushing a couple, maybe 20 tons of Sauvignon Blanc through a very small press. We were eating some fried chicken with some Gaia Barbaresco, because Gaia Barbaresco goes fantastically with fried chicken. And when you've had a 12-hour day, nothing like at the end of the day drinking some profound wine and having a conversation with one of the greatest minds in Santa Barbara wine. Brian and I walked out and we're looking over the Santa Rita Hills at Babcock in 1996. And he said, hey, and this is a cool little story about the Santa Rita Hills you've probably never heard. He said, do you know the Wine Spectator was here today? I said, no, I was pressing Sauvignon Blanc. He said, that's exactly what you should have been doing. And I should have been talking to this Wine Spectator. But Wine Spectator sent a writer down to the Santa Rita Hills to find out why there was a few winemakers in the mid-90s that were making some incredible Pinot Noir in the Western San Ynez Valley. And that's the term he used. And that's the term that the Wine Spectator used is, tell me why that the Western San Ynez Valley is really producing some of these amazing Pinot Noirs. And what Brian told me is, what I should have told the guys, this is not the western end of the San Ynez Valley. This is the Santa Rita Hills, because the Santa Rita School was a half a mile from Babcock. And the Santa Rita Hills are the central geographic feature that drive the wind and everything else within the Santa Rita Hills to produce the type of wines that we made down there in the Santa Rita Hills. And I remember that moment in 1996 as being the seminal moment that later on in 1997, we came back to that moment and said, it's time that we create something where we can hang our hat on. It's time to give ourselves an identity that the Wine Spectator recognized we're making great wine, but isn't it kind of weird that they send someone down for 90 minutes to hear a story and to define us in the national wine writing firmament, to say, this is what these folks are doing on the west side of the San Ynez Valley. Sanford, Babcock, probably Santa Barbara Winery, Huber. Who else was there? That was about it. There may have been 7 vineyards in the mid 90s in what would become the Santa Rita Hills. So what Brian told me that day is, this is not the western end of the Santa Ynez Valley. This is the Santa Rita Hills. And it's the first time I'd ever heard anyone talking about this area as the Santa Rita Hills. We are not the Santa Ynez Valley. We need to create something that designates us as a very specific terroir, as a very specific typicity, as a very specific soil-based, weather-based area that really represents the transverse maritime throat in the east-west valleys that run between Lompoc and the Buellton Flats. And that's really the birth of the Santa Rita Hills, was that moment. And as a result, I felt connected to it. As a result, I ended up volunteering to actually write the petition to establish the Santa Rita Hills, which I did in 1997, and that was approved in 2000, and then revised in 2001 to abbreviate Santa to STA, so we wouldn't get sued by Viña Santa Rita down in Chile, which is a story for another day. And if you've been watching long enough, you've heard the story already. So here we are now. We've got these beautiful Santa Barbara County, Santa Ynez, and Santa Rita Hills wines. So where I want to go now is to talk a little bit about where we are in this whole sequestering and what's going to happen when we are allowed to start going to tasting rooms and into wine country again. Just like Vegas deserves all of our love when this is over, we all should basically go to Vegas. We should all go to New Orleans. We should all go to San Francisco. We should all go to Los Angeles. We should go to New York City. We should go to all these places that need our money and need our love to represent and to basically inhale the culture of these places that we haven't been able to inhale in a while, without fear of ending up in a hospital or dying. So when we are able to go back to tasting rooms and being able to support the wineries and the tasting rooms and wine countries that we want, I want to give you guys a couple of pro tips for how. And I'm seeing a couple of questions coming in too. How do I compare Santa Rita Hills and Santa Maria? I've talked about it before, but I say the main difference, same amount of, heat summation per year. So if you look at how much heat Santa Maria gets versus Santa Rita Hills, it's the same. So why are the wines so vastly different? I would say two reasons. One is when the regions were planted. Santa Maria Valley was planted in the 60s and 70s before we had the Dijon clones of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So we are mostly planted to old clones with old trellising in Santa Maria Valley, while Santa Rita Hills had the benefit of being planted with new clones, 667, 113, 114, 115, 777, 87, basically all the new clones and the new trellising technology of the vertical shoot position trellis. Why does that matter? Well, in the old trellising system, the trellis would basically flop over into the vine row, and there's not really much of an opportunity to do proper canopy management. In the vertical shoot position trellis, every single shoot is pushed up through and forced into a curtain of foliage. So when you pull the leaves down by the fruit is fully exposed to sunlight, wind, and that makes a huge difference in canopy management and flavor development. So Santa Maria Valley is a little hamstrung because we have older plantings. Isn't that a good thing? Yes, but we didn't have the trellising technology and the new clones. So we have old clones and old trellising generally. So as a result, Santa Maria Valley is going to be a little more rustic. It's going to have a little bit more of old school California Pinot character. When the wines age, they might pick up a little tomato skin character that you will not get in the Santa Rita Hills. I find Santa Maria Valley, as it ages, absolutely classic. Now, as Santa Maria Valley wines, Pinot Noirs become fully mature, they do pick up a little bit of tomato skin character, and a little celery salt, which reminds me of one of my favorite drinks, which is a Bloody Mary. So if you love Bloody Marys, you will love Santa Maria Pinot Noir that has 7 to 12 years of age on it, because it has a little bit of those characters with the cherry character and the earth character and a lot of the more savory characters, which I absolutely love. So that's important to understand. So when you are able to come and visit wine country again, my first recommendation is that you plan ahead. For every hour that you put into planning of a wine trip to Santa Barbara County, I think you're going to get 50% greater experience. So for instance, if you know me, which now you do, hello, whagen@jwilkes.com, weswines@gmail.com. You're coming to Santa Barbara, you better let me know, because I will introduce you people to make appointments. And that is really the most important thing that I know, is that you can contact winemakers, let them know that you're passionate about wine, make that connection and say, I'm going to be here September 4th to 10th. Is there an opportunity for me to come and visit? Make appointments. That's really, really important to plan ahead. Number two, if you want greatest experience in wine country, do not come between September and October. In the Southern Hemisphere, from February to early April. This is when harvest is happening. If you want our full attention, if you come during harvest, we will welcome you. We will thank you for being in the wine club. We will thank you for everything you do for our brand. And then we're going to go make some wine and pick some grapes and do what we need to do to make the best wine. So number one, make appointments. Number two, visit in the off season if it's ever possible. One of the greatest experiences I've ever had as a winemaker is going to Alsace and Champagne in the winter and experiencing how much they really cared that we were there in the off season. Yes, it was cold. Yes, it wasn't the best weather, but we weren't there for the weather. We were there for the wine. And as a result, if you go in the off season when there's not a lot of tourists there, you're going to get a lot more love and a lot more attention. Get your reservations through the winemakers you know. So if you know me, which you do, you want to come to Santa Barbara, you want to send me an email and say, where should we go? And can you make some recommendations? Oh my gosh, do you know Nikki Palson? My gosh, I really want to go to, do you know James at Liquid Farm? Yes, I do. So let me introduce you and make a handshake between you and the winemakers you want to visit. So you want to go to Beckman, you want to go to Longoria, you want to go to Ken Brown, you want to go to Liquid Farm. These are the places that you might need to know another winemaker to get into. So because you know me, that gives you an opportunity. So if you don't have the opportunity to meet a lot of winemakers on these sort of social distancing tastings, first of all, rock that world. I mean, if you are watching folks, winemakers and brand ambassadors and all this stuff, connect with them on social media and make connections. Like, if I think of Dominic or Michelle Shin, who've been basically watching every single show I do, and they say they're coming to Santa Barbara, I know how supportive they've been. And as a result, I'm going to work 2, 3, 4 hours to make sure that their experience of visiting Santa Barbara County wine country is profound. That is what's really important. So use your relationships, visit off season, and make some appointments. And number 4, realize that if you're going to go to Napa and Sonoma, you're not going to have the same experience if you go to Santa Barbara. If you go to Bordeaux, you're not going to have the same experience as Alsace. If you go to Burgundy, you're not going to have the same experience as you'd have in Loire or Champagne. So I'm going to recommend that you go to a region that is up and coming, but not become. So realize if you go to Burgundy and Bordeaux, you're going to get some attitude, because even if Burgundy and Bordeaux is not the type of place where it's going to survive and thrive without you. You might want to consider going to a wine country or a region that is making incredible wine, but is still not recognized for the quality they're making. Hello, Santa Barbara County, hello, Loire, so many different regions, or, Lodi, that they're making great wines, great value, but they're going to really love the fact that you're showing up on their, it seems like sometimes in the most popular regions, Napa, Sonoma, Burgundy, Bordeaux, maybe Champagne, that if you want to go to visit and see Dom Perignon statue, well, everyone wants to see Dom Perignon statue, so you might not get as much love and attention. That if you choose a region that is still working hard, struggling to represent and come to their reputation that they should really have. So underrepresented regions, you're going to always get more attention. Choose a focus. Damn it, I want to drink Pinot Noir. Well, then go to Santa Rita Hills and Santa Maria Valley. There's not really going to be much out in Ballard Canyon or in Happy Canyon that's going to get you excited about Pinot Noir. So if you're going to choose a region, then choose a focus. So if you're going to go to the Loire Valley, you're going to go to Bourgueil and Chinon to taste Cabernet Franc. You're going to go to, you're basically going to go out to a region that has a varietal focus that you love. If you love sparkling wine, you'll never have a better time than going to Champagne. If you love aromatic white wines, think about, heading off towards Alsace or to Germany or to Austria or to Switzerland. Think about focusing in on a varietal and a region that might be the second best region for that wine, because that's where you're going to get a little love, a little more attention, and people are going to be really stoked to see you. And then my last suggestion, and this comes from me going on a lot of wine tours where people are feeling that they really need to get so much into their day that they have to go to 7 tasting rooms and 2 formal tastings. Screw that. When I'm on vacation, well, first of all, I don't go wine tasting on vacation because that's what I do for a living. I'm going to probably go someplace that has a lot of really, really great disc golf courses, some great jam bands. We're going to go and have some fun, listen to some music, and we may just give up wine for a week. You on vacation want to have a wine experience. So as a result, I'm suggesting not only do you have a wine experience, but you feel that you've had a vacation. Because if you try to do 7 tasting rooms a day, you're going to be wrecked. You're not even going to want to go to dinner at night. My recommendation is 1 appointment at 10:30 every morning, 2 tasting rooms, 2-hour lunch, and a 3-hour dinner. Full-time vacation right there. Don't do too much where you get back to your house after a 4-day vacation and you're like, I need a day to recover from my vacation. Don't forget to relax. Wine should remind us to relax. And if you try to do too much on a wine vacation, you're not going to remember that region as fondly as you would as if you had maybe 4 hours a day just to chill, just to relax, take deep breaths, and take in the manifest beauty of the place you're in. If you're in Santa Barbara and you want to understand Pinot Noir and you don't feel the wind blowing off the Pacific Ocean in the Santa Rita Hills, you have no effing clue what the Santa Rita Hills are all about. If you're drinking Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Sauvignon from Happy Canyon and you're here in the summer and you don't feel that 95-degree intense sunlight on your skin that influences the character of the Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet and Happy Canyon, you didn't get it. You've got to feel the manifest beauty and somewhereness of a region outside of the wine experience to understand how wine is influenced by that experience. And I hope that makes sense. Tasting rooms. I got a couple of suggestions for you guys as well. Again, believe it or not, every tasting room takes appointments, and the experience you guys are going to get in appointments at a tasting room are always going to be superior to just walking in. So even if you know what 4 tasting rooms you want to do on any given day or 2 tasting rooms you want to do on any given day, make sure to call them, let them know you're coming, let them know you're geeks, let them know you like to buy wine, and let them know that you're coming, and they will provide an experience. And you may want to let them know that you're looking for a wine club experience. You don't have to join the wine club. You just want the wine club experience. So what you're saying is, I am amenable to the idea of joining a wine club. And honestly, that will make a huge difference, because wine club is where rubber meets the road in the world of keeping a winery operational and open. So don't think about that. Again, my recommendation is 1 appointment at 10:30 or 11 o'clock, wherever you're going, and then 2 more tasting rooms and no more than that. Otherwise, you're going to, unless you're just a glutton for punishment and you want to hit 5 tasting rooms in a day, do realize you might be traveling with someone that's not as passionate about wine as you are. So you might want to mix up that with lunch, a brewery, a distillery, lavender farm, a sheep farm, a cheese farm. Think about mixing up your wine experience with other things that happen in the wine industry and the wine culture within a place. So there's not only wine, there's food production, there's honey production, there's beer production, there's liquor production. All of these things, you should mix it up and make sure that your experience has that opportunity. Spit and take notes. Why? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to remember a damn thing that you did. We're drinking, we're having fun, we're having all these experiences. You want to have a journal. You want to have a journal where you can write. You don't have to write a paragraph on every wine. The year, the producer, the varietal or the blend. 1 star out of 4, 3 stars out of 4. Delicious, bright, really looking forward to tasting this wine 3 years from now. Bought 6 bottles. Have a journal and bring that journal into the winery and make sure that journal represents your wine tasting experiences. So when you forget what you did that day, you can use what Carl Sagan called extragenetic information, which means information we store outside the human brain, in a written form so we can understand it. Really important to take notes. And spit, because if you're drinking everything you put in your mouth and you're tasting 20 wines a day, that's a lot. Now, if you got a liver like mine, if you got the ability to taste wine and drink wine like 20 wines in a day, that's nothing. But just make sure if you're driving, you're spending special attention. I live in wine country, and I would appreciate that all of you would drive with extra care and extra sobriety when you're in wine country to make sure myself and my family and my dogs are safe. Be honest and picky. When you go into a tasting room, the tasting room personnel are used to people that have no freaking clue what they're doing. Their expertise is to lead you down the primrose path of what we have to offer and how it's going to excite you and make you want to join our wine club. If you front load it with the idea and the intention that you know what you like and you are honest with what you like, first of all, we're going to know what to pour you. Second, we might have some stuff under the table that is, we know if you say I am a Pinot Noir aficionado and I join wine clubs where I'm offered lots of different looks at Pinot, we may have 2 Pinots under the table that no one else knows about that we will give you a taste of because A, we know you might join the wine club, and B, we know that you're picky. And if you're picky, that means you know what the hell you're talking about. And if you're picky and you know what the hell you're talking about, we want to focus the attention of the tasting towards what you are picky and what you know and what you're tasting. So that's really, really important. Buy what you love. I don't go wine tasting, I go wine buying. This all goes back to my time at Clos Pepe when Steve Pepe was very kind to give me about a $15,000 to $20,000 budget every year to buy wine for the Clos cellar. So we had about 2,500 bottles in our Clos Pepe cellar: port, Burgundy, Bordeaux, Alsace, Germany, Austria, all these beautiful wines from all over the world. And my job was to spend about 10 to 12 grand a year on Santa Barbara wines that would age gracefully in our cellar. So believe me, a lot of the fact that people like me in Santa Barbara wine was because I used to be one of the most incredible customers in the world. I would come in, I would taste at every tasting room in Santa Barbara County twice a year, and I would try to walk out of every tasting that I did if I enjoyed the wine, because in the industry they would usually comp my tasting. I would try to buy between 1 and 4 cases per tasting room I went to. Now, if I went into your tasting room and I bought a case, that's a great sale for a tasting, right? They would normally give me 30 to 50% off because of my industry discount, which we'll talk about in a second. But I really wanted to make sure that they recognized that I wasn't there to taste, I was there to buy. And that's really what we are there in the tasting room to do. You know, I mean, if you're just a tasty Lou and you go in and you pay your tasting fee and you taste and you walk out with bottling of, what the hell are you doing in wine country? Think about the money you spent to leave home, take vacation, and spend time in our neighborhood. You're going to taste our wines. You're going to find them delicious, and you're not going to go home with some. Have a plan how you're going to get a bunch of wine home. If you live in a different place, find out how you can ship, where you can ship, and how it's going to work. Know when to ship, when the temperature is right for ship. I don't like shipping over 80 degrees when it's anywhere 80 degrees between where I'm shipping it and where I'm. So that's why I like to go to wine country in the off season. So I know the worst thing that could happen is it's going to be cold when I send the wine home, and chilling the wine is not going to be nearly as bad as getting it hot. So be supportive. Buy a bunch of wine when you go tasting. It's really important. Not to say tasting rooms are the best value, but one thing you can think about is joining some wine clubs to get your discount, taking a year of the wine club, and then deciding where you're going to go with your wine club memberships. We don't expect everyone to stay in the wine club permanently. The J. Wilkes Wine Club is all cool kids, and we're all doing everything we can to keep you in the wine club. So if you're in the J. Wilkes Wine Club, stay in. If you're in other people's wine clubs, leave and come to the J. Wilkes Wine Club. And the last one is I want to talk a little bit about industry discounts. Now, if you work in wine, Holly, I'm thinking about all the people that watch this show that are in the wine industry. If you receive your major paycheck, if your paycheck that pays your bills comes from the wine industry or from hospitality, you might want to ask, if you work for a restaurant, if you're a server, if you're a sommelier, hey, I'm in hospitality, I sell wine for a living on the floor every night. Does that qualify for a discount, a free tasting? Just be straight up with them. I know people that print fake business cards to go into tasting rooms, throw down the business cards so they get a free tasting. I think that's actually pretty lame. I think that you should be honest about who you are. If you are a wine blogger, if you are a wine influencer, you can see if that'll float. But I'll tell you what, I know a lot of tasting room managers that are so effing sick of people saying that they're a blogger and then that they should, they're choosing beggars. Of course, I will give you, exposure. Well, We don't really know how to measure exposure and to see how it changes our bottom line. But in general, don't ask for an industry discount unless you're really in the industry. And if you are in the industry, utilize it, exploit it, man. I taste free everywhere I go. I get amazing discounts wherever I go, because being a winemaker is a lot like being a teacher. You know, you don't make much for money, but you know, you're changing the world, and hopefully for a good reason. You know, I like to say I retired early from a very lucrative career in public education because the kids drove me to drink, and then I went pro. And that makes perfect sense, because I'm very, very happy with that comment. But that's pretty much my suggestions of tasting rooms in wine country and how to get the best out of them. If you've never been to a foreign wine country, make sure to get out. I mean, honestly, the best thing you can do as an American is to get out of the United States to understand how the world works around us. So we have a balanced brain to understand what it means to be an American, what it means to live America, inside of America, what non-American wine tastes like, what American wine tastes like, taste South America, taste Europe, taste Transcaucasia, taste Northern Africa. There's so many places where wines are being made. So wherever we go, let's make sure as American wine drinkers and as American wine as passionate lovers of American wine, that wherever we go, we are recognized as people that know how to taste, know how to not only take hospitality, but give hospitality. For me, hospitality is one of the most important things in the world. For us to welcome people to our homes, to welcome people to our regions, to say, you know, for 6, 8, 18, 36 months, we couldn't be together, we couldn't hug, we couldn't be together. When we are together, how important is it going to be to show people proper hospitality? So that's what I had for you tonight. We did 3 Cabernets. Remember that Ballard Lane, the J. Wilkes, and the Barrel Burner are all available at MillerFamilyWines.com. Don't forget, DD50 is the promo code. Remember, tomorrow, what the hell are we doing tomorrow? Tomorrow, we are doing aromatic whites, Pinot Blanc versus Sauvignon Blanc. So we're going to talk a little bit about terpenes, farming, and the making of aromatic whites. It'll be a slightly short show tomorrow. But if you're interested in aromatic whites, we might bring something in to taste as well. I might bring back the dessert Gruner Veltliner from the Piemonte of Maryland and see how it's doing. I actually tasted it today. It's actually tasting spectacularly, even after over a week under the repour. So I hope you guys had fun. I will leave you, as I always leave you, with the hope that you will find someone in your family, in your neighborhood, and within your social media or social circle that might be alone at this time, to reach to them, to make sure they feel connected, to make sure that they get through this time knowing that there's other human beings that care about them, that want to talk to them, that want to integrate, that want to have a relationship, and just make sure to show a little extra kindness to everyone around you. Tip the hell out of your delivery driver. Tip the hell out of anyone who takes care of you during this position, that's putting themselves in horrific, deadly risk to make sure that we're all alive and well. And in the end, just recognize that we should trust science, we should trust history, and we should trust the idea that the doctors, the physician's assistants, the nurses, the first responders, these are the people that are keeping us, our friends, and our family alive. And anything we can do to help them is absolutely vital right now. So when you read stuff about this, go to the doctors. When you want to understand what's going on, go to the people that understand how disease works. And in the end, especially like me, if you're immunosuppressed and you have a higher chance of mortality because of this, spend a little extra time inside. In the end, the most important thing we can do right now is to take care of each other, to take care of the people in our home, to take care of the people that we know outside of our home, to make everyone feel welcome. And that when we open back up and we have the opportunity to have hospitality, hospitality will seem twice as sweet. Okay? So I look forward to the moment we can all share some space together, some delicious food, some wonderful wine, some love in the room. But until then, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. If you can't be with the wine you love the wine you're with. And I'm really, really stoked you spent some time with me this afternoon and this evening and tonight. And I look forward to spending some more time with you guys tomorrow talking about aromatic white wines. So I'll see you tomorrow on Facebook at 4:45, on Instagram at 5 o'clock, and have a fantastic night and spread the love, because Lord knows we need more love in the world. Cheers, guys.